Usually when you watch like a gripping sci-fi show, there's uh, there's a certain comfort in the tropes, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like you get a villain or maybe, I don't know, a deeply misunderstood tech genius, and they stare at this glowing supercomputer and just declare that everything we do is predetermined. Like we're all just following this cosmic script that was written at the dawn of time. And it's a great plot device, right?
Hmm.
But then the credits roll, and you close your laptop, you look around your living room, and if you're like me, and I'm guessing since you're hanging out with us on this deep dive, you're this tiny kind of unsettling thought creeps in.
Right, the late night existential trap.
Exactly. Like, are you genuinely choosing to get up and grab a glass of water? Or was that exact muscular movement just, locked into the fabric of the universe 14 billion years ago?
It's a question that completely dismantles your sense of agency if you stare at it for too long. Like, are we the authors of our lives or just actors reading lines we didn't write?
Yeah, and that is exactly why we're so excited to welcome you to the table today. We're diving into a set of documents that basically argues our entire modern lives.
Yeah.
I mean, our schedules, our algorithms, our habits are just these desperate attempts to hide from the terrifying answer to that question.
Yeah, it's wild. The source is a deeply philosophical dialogue titled The Error Term, Consciousness and the Universe Laughing.
Which is just an amazing title.
It really is. And the mission today is to explore this massive tension between determinism and free will, but we're doing it by looking at quantum physics, this concept of pure is-ness, and why the unpredictable anomalies in our data, the error terms, might actually just be the universe having a good laugh at our expense.
So pull up a chair, because to kick this off, we have to talk about the inciting spark for this whole source document, which is actually a sci-fi show.
Yeah, the show dubs.
Yeah.
In the show, there's this character named Forrest who has built this omnipotent quantum computer. And Forrest believes in a strictly deterministic universe. So like from a God's eye view, everything is fixed on one single timeline. If you feed the computer enough data, you can perfectly project the past and the future. But the text contrasts this with the multiverse or, the many worlds theory.
Which is the idea that, like, every possible outcome actually happens across infinite branching timelines, right?
Exactly. So you have this tension between a completely fixed railroad track and an infinite web of choices.
But, I mean, physics doesn't actually have this figured out yet, do they? Because the math seems to contradict what we physically see in the world.
Yeah, and that is the absolute core of the quantum debate that the document breaks down. So we have the Schrödinger equation in quantum mechanics, right? Which describes how a quantum system evolves over time.
Okay.
And that equation is perfectly deterministic. It is smooth, it's mathematical, and highly predictable. But the moment you actually try to measure that quantum system in the real world, you get a probabilistic, seemingly random result.
So the math is saying reality is a fixed, predictable wave, but the actual physical measurement says it's a random roll of the dice.
Right, which has totally split the physics community for decades. So you have the many worlds interpretation on one side, which tries to save determinism by arguing that the wave function never actually collapses.
Wait, really? It never collapses?
Right, in many worlds, every time a measurement happens, reality just branches. All possibilities happen, just in parallel universes. So the observer only thinks reality is random because they are stuck perceiving one single branch of the multiverse.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because think about it like a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Oh, I love this analogy.
Yeah, so the many worlds theory is like holding the entire printed book in your hands. From the perspective of the book itself, every single page, every single alternate ending, it all already exists simultaneously. So it is a completely determined, finished object. But you, as the reader or the observer, you can only experience reading one page at a time.
Right.
So to you, it feels like this unpredictable journey of free choice, even though the ink is literally already dry.
That is such a brilliant way to visualize it. And then, on the other side of the aisle, you have the Copenhagen interpretation.
Which says what?
Well, Copenhagen argues that this quantum randomness isn't an illusion caused by branching universes. It's genuine. Like, the universe is fundamentally indeterministic at the smallest scales. The act of measurement causes a real collapse from this pure, swirling potential into a single, definite outcome.
Which means we have to talk about the double slit experiment here, because it takes all this like really abstract math and puts it right in front of your eyes. But can you break down how it actually works for us? Because it's honestly insane.
It really is. Okay, so imagine firing tiny particles, like single electrons, at a physical barrier that has two tiny vertical slits cut into it. And behind that barrier is a blank wall that detects where the electrons hit.
Okay, got the picture.
So when we don't observe which slit the electron goes through, something impossible happens. It acts like a wave. So think of dropping two pebbles into a still pond side by side. The ripples expand, and where the crests of the waves meet, they amplify each other, and where a crest meets a trough, they cancel each other out.
And that creates a very specific repeating pattern of stripes on the back wall.
Right.
An interference pattern.
Exactly. But here is the totally mind-bending part. We are firing single individual electrons.
One at a time.
Right, one at a time. So for an interference pattern to emerge, a single electron must be going through both slits simultaneously, acting as a wave of pure possibility and interfering with itself. It exists in a state of superposition.
But the moment we place, like, a camera or a detector at the slits to catch it in the act to see which slit it actually goes through, the ripples disappear.
The interference pattern just vanishes completely. The moment it is measured, the electron suddenly acts like a normal physical pebble. It just goes through one slit or the other, forming two distinct bands on the wall.
Okay, wait. If simply putting a camera there forces the electron to stop being a wave and become a physical speck, what the hell is reality doing before we set up the camera?
And see, that is the exact realization that pushes this source document out of physics and into pure philosophy. What exists before we measure it?
Yeah.
The text introduces this concept of pure is-ness. If we strip away our human concepts of the past, which is just memory, and the future, which is just projection, what are we actually left with?
Just right now.
Just a radical now. If only now exists, then is-ness is identical to nowness. Superposition in physics isn't just a quirky math problem, it's pure being. It is reality humming with infinite potential before we force it into a measurable category.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, though, because I'm struggling with this one part. The source argues that measurement is actually a trap, right? That it degrades reality. But is science really holding us back? Because without measurement, we wouldn't have modern medicine or, the microphone I'm speaking into or the structural engineering to build a bridge. I can't just exist in pure is-ness when I need to calculate load-bearing physics.
That's a super fair point, but the text doesn't argue that measurement isn't useful for building bridges. It argues that measurement is fundamentally alienated from the experience of reality.
How so?
Well, think about what measurement physically requires. It demands time. You need a before state, an after state, and a memory to hold the results so you can compare them. It also requires a hard artificial split between a subject, the person looking, and an object, the thing being looked at.
Oh, I see. You have to literally step outside of reality to point a ruler at it.
Exactly. You extract yourself from the flow. Measurement pulls us out of direct, undivided is-ness and drags us into representation and abstraction. You are no longer experiencing the raw universe. You're looking at a delayed, flattened model of it.
Right.
And the document points out this really powerful distinction between measuring and knowing. Like, you don't need to measure your own existence to know that you exist.
Oh, like the example in the text.
Yeah.
If you stub your toe, you don't need to consult a pain scale from 1 to 10 to know that it hurts. The knowing is immediate. You don't need a before and after to feel the throbbing in your toe. It's just happening.
Right. Immediate presence doesn't require time or comparison. It just is. But the moment we try to scientifically capture that pure is-ness, we create an infinite recursive trap. We try to measure the measurer. We try to observe the observer.
It's like a camera plugged into a monitor that is filming the monitor. You just get an infinite tunnel of abstraction.
Yes. So if connecting with that raw, unmeasured now is so profound, if immediate experience is the only place we are truly alive, why do we build the bridges and the scales in the first place?
Yeah, why are we so desperate to organize the universe into these rigid systems? Because, honestly, if having infinite, unmeasured choices is actually a reality, that's incredibly overwhelming.
It is terrifying. And the source offers this fascinating historical explanation for our obsession with structure. It traces it all the way back to the breakdown of the feudal system.
Oh, I'm taking it way back.
Yeah. For centuries in medieval Europe, the vast majority of people had virtually zero choices. Your life, your profession, your social standing, they were entirely determined by your birth. You didn't suffer from the anxiety of choosing a career path.
Because there was no path. There was just the dirt you were born on. But as feudalism collapsed and the modern individual emerged, people suddenly had agency. And while we, romanticize freedom today, the reality is that freedom brings the crushing weight of responsibility. Because if you can choose, you can screw up.
The terror of freedom. According to the source, this acute existential anxiety gave rise to things like Puritanism and Calvinist predestination. This was basically a theological form of extreme determinism.
Wait, so they used religion to cope with having choices?
Basically, it essentially told people, don't worry, God has already decided before you were born if you are saved or damned. It is completely out of your hands.
That is wild. They voluntarily created a deterministic framework to escape their own agency. They outsourced their salvation so they wouldn't have to carry the guilt of having free will.
And the text draws this massive, brilliant parallel to our world today. We like to think we've outgrown medieval superstition, right? But the source argues that modern tech culture specific, like the culture of Silicon Valley, has simply built a new Puritan God.
Oh, man.
Only instead of theology, it's constructed of algorithms, KPIs, and machine learning models.
Oh, think about how we live today. We do the exact same thing to avoid the vertigo of choice. Look at our morning optimization routines, our step counters, our sleep trackers,
Right.
or the way we let Spotify tell us what our music taste is, or how we let dating apps curate our romance based on some hidden ELO rating.
Exactly.
We build these deterministic chains around ourselves. We just want the algorithm to tell us what to do so we don't have to face the absolute terror of infinite possibility.
We view a day as a failure if the metrics on our Apple Watch don't hit the arbitrary target. We assume that if it can't be quantified, it isn't real. We basically collapse the infinite potential of reality into what can be measured and maximized.
We're doing exactly what Forrest did in the show Devs. We're enslaving ourselves to a deterministic machine to avoid the horrifying truth that we are actually free and therefore infinitely responsible for our participation in the present moment.
But the incredible thing about the universe is that it refuses to stay in the box. No matter how powerful the algorithm is, no matter how detailed the spreadsheet, the predictions eventually break down, there's always an anomaly.
Yes. And this brings us to the absolute hero of this source document, the error term.
Right. In data science and statistics, the error term, or the residual, is the mathematical difference between what your perfectly crafted model predicted would happen and what actually happened in reality.
And typically data scientists just view the error term as an annoyance, right? It's just noise.
Yeah, we assume the model is flawless and the real world is just being messy. Or we assume we just didn't collect enough data to predict the outcome perfectly.
But the text flips this entirely. It argues that the error term isn't a mistake or a lack of data. The error term is the only place where pure is-ness, pure freedom, and unmeasurable reality actually live.
Exactly. Statistics as a field only functions because it pairs the model, which is our desperate human attempt to chain reality into predictable patterns, with the error term, which is the universe's irreducible, undeniable freedom.
So if we go back to our choose your own adventure book metaphor, the error term isn't a typo on page 42.
What is it then?
The error term is the reader deciding they are bored of the options provided, ripping a blank page out of a notebook, writing their own ending, and stapling it right into the spine. It completely shatters the predetermined structure of the book.
Oh, that's perfect. It's an injection of pure novelty. And this redefines our entire concept of chaos. We usually think of chaos as a mess, right? As a breakdown of civil order or structure. But the source asks us to view chaos as infinite order.
Infinite order. Wow.
Yeah, it is a pattern so complex, so rich, and so deep that from our limited perspective holding our tiny little rulers, it just looks like noise. Chaos is pure potentiality constantly actualizing. It's the engine of existence.
Without the chaos of the error term, there is only perfect stillness, which is indistinguishable from non-existence. So determinism and freedom aren't enemies fighting a war. They need each other. Freedom is the infinite possibility, and determinism is the canvas or the structure that gives that freedom a place to express itself. Every time a predictive model fails in the long run, it is not a data failure. It's the universe expressing its profound creativity.
Beautifully said.
I love the way the source phrases this. The error term is literally the universe laughing at us, just slipping out of the little algorithmic boxes we try to put it in.
It's the cosmos saying, you thought you had me figured out, watch this.
Yeah.
But that raises a really poignant question from the text. If chaos and the error term are so vibrant, if they're the literal engine of reality, why do humans view things like entropy with such profound dread? Why do we see the universe's constant chaotic transformation as decay and death?
Well, because entropy is the ultimate error term to a human life, right? It's the breakdown of our physical bodies.
Exactly. The source points out that entropy isn't actually things falling apart in a negative sense. It's just the universe breathing. It is potentiality moving, redistributing, and transforming.
Right, like a star exploding isn't a tragedy of decay. It's the chaotic creation of heavy elements that will eventually form planets and oceans and life.
But we hate it because we are temporary. We are these localized, highly organized patterns of consciousness that manage to hold our atoms together for maybe 80 years if we're lucky.
We project our incredibly acute mortality anxiety onto a cosmos that has been happily happening for 13.8 billion years. The universe isn't dying. We are. And we're terrified of losing our strict boundaries and dissolving back into the pure, swirling potentiality of the error term.
Which leads right into the ultimate conclusion of the text, the cosmic joke.
Oh, this part blew my mind.
The idea that consciousness is just the universe playing an elaborate game of hide and seek with itself. It's a concept that echoes through countless mystical traditions. Why do we feel fear, finitude, and separation?
Because consciousness, which is just pure is-ness, observing itself, pretends to be finite, small, and afraid, just so it can experience the journey of discovery. It puts on the costume of a separate, vulnerable self.
Yes, the transcendental object that we are constantly searching for, trying to measure and predict with our supercomputers and AI, isn't out there at the end of time.
It's us. We are the universe experiencing itself. And, speaking of supercomputers, we really have to talk about how artificial intelligence factors into this, especially since the source document itself was generated through a dialogue with an AI.
The layers of irony are so thick here, especially because the AI was created by a company named Anthropic, which literally means ascribing human characteristics to non-human things. The text deeply explores whether an AI can possess this pure is-ness.
And what's the verdict? Because, an AI can certainly surprise us. It can write a poem we didn't expect. Doesn't that mean it has its own error term?
It produces novelty, yes, but think about how a large language model works. It's essentially a massive deterministic statistical spreadsheet. It looks at billions of parameters of past human text to predict the most likely next word.
Right.
It is humanity's attempt to externalize all of our recognized patterns and knowledge. During its training, an AI uses algorithms specifically designed to minimize its own error term down to absolute zero. It is fundamentally trying to eliminate chaos.
So it's a machine built to run away from the error term, whereas human consciousness is the error term.
Precisely. While AI can produce unpredictable emergent ideas by recombining our data, it lacks true will. It lacks the raw, embodied, subjective is-ness of human consciousness. It is a brilliant mirror reflecting our own linguistic patterns back at us, but it is not the universe experiencing itself in the same way a human stubbing their toe is.
It's the map, not the territory. It's us playing God again, trying to build the ultimate deterministic machine, just like Forrest and Devs. But the map can never be the living, breathing reality. Which brings to mind my absolute favorite metaphor from the source text. In the show Devs, amidst all these brilliant tech billionaires worshiping their predictive quantum computer, there is a homeless man who sleeps on the pavement outside the tech campus.
He is entirely disconnected from their billion-dollar quantum predictions, their schedules, and their optimization routines.
And in a crucial, pivotal moment in the story, he is the one character who completely defies the machine's absolute prediction. He doesn't do it with countermath or hacking. He defies it simply by making a spontaneous, unpredictable choice in the present moment.
He is the ultimate walking embodiment of the error term. While everyone inside the glass building is agonizing over their lack of free will and staring at the computer screen, he is living entirely outside the deterministic system they built. He just chooses. He is pure potentiality in action.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to bring this right back to you.
Sure.
We've gone from the ripples of quantum physics to the anxiety of Puritan history, from the crushing algorithms of Silicon Valley to the cosmic joke of the universe playing hide and seek. But the most vital takeaway is the systems, the color-coded schedules, the performance metrics, and the anxieties you carry around every single day.
Yeah.
They're just costumes.
Yeah.
They are tools you've adopted to manage the overwhelming, vertigo-inducing reality that you are actually infinite potentiality. You are the universe happening right now.
And if we really take that to heart, it leaves us with a fascinating and maybe slightly terrifying challenge.
Mm.
We've established that our systems and our constant measurements are just our way of trying to control the terrifying freedom of the raw happening. So consider this tomorrow morning. What if the only way to genuinely introduce profound change into your life isn't by working harder to manipulate your circumstances? What if it isn't about optimizing your routine or adding another metric to your habit tracker? What if the key is consciously choosing to stop measuring a specific part of your life entirely?
Wow.
If the error term is where the magic lives, what happens when you deliberately break your own algorithm and let the universe laugh?
What happens when you throw away the script? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.